Hey there, and welcome. Have you ever felt like English is just hiding these tricky little puzzles in every single sentence? If so, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to tackle one of the biggest challenges for English learners, phrasal verbs. We're going to make them way less scary, a lot more understandable, and maybe, just maybe, even a little bit fun.
You know, I absolutely love this description because it's so true, isn't it? Phrasal verbs can totally feel like tiny monsters. They're small, maybe just two words, but they can pop up and completely change the entire meaning of what you're trying to say. But hey, don't you worry, by the end of this, you'll know exactly how to tame them. So let's go ahead and formally meet these monsters. What really happens when a simple, everyday verb teams up with a tiny little word called a particle? Well, what you get is something completely new, and often something you would never, ever expect. Okay, so here's the official breakdown. A phrasal verb is basically a team-up. You've got your main verb plus a particle. That's a small word like up, on, or out. And here's the crucial part. When they get together, they create a brand new meaning that you usually can't guess just by looking at the individual words.
This slide right here shows the problem perfectly. The verb give, we all know that one. It means to offer something. Super simple. But then you add that one tiny particle up, and suddenly, give up means to quit. It has absolutely nothing to do with offering something in an upward direction. This is the magic, and let's be honest, the madness of phrasal verbs. All right, so they're tricky. You might be thinking, why should I even bother with these? Well, the reward for mastering them is huge. It's literally the difference between sounding like you're reading from a textbook and sounding like a natural, fluent, real-life human being.
Just take a look at this. I will continue is 100% correct grammar, no problem there. But it sounds a little formal, maybe even a bit robotic. On the other hand, I'll keep going. Now that's what you're much more likely to hear in a casual conversation. Using phrasal verbs makes your English sound instantly more relaxed and authentic.
Okay, you ready for a secret weapon? Because this is a game changer. A lot of phrasal verbs aren't completely random. They actually follow patterns. Take the particle up, for instance. It often signals something positive or an increase, like cheer up or speed up. And down often suggests the opposite, a decrease or a negative vibe, like in slow down or feel down. Once you start spotting these patterns, you can actually start to guess what they mean. Now let's talk about the single most powerful technique for making these verbs stick. I want you to forget about long, boring vocabulary lists. Your brain isn't built to remember spreadsheets. It's wired to remember stories. This right here is the absolute key. Context is everything. When you learn a phrasal verb inside of a story, especially one that's a little bit memorable or funny, it just sticks in your brain. The story gives it a home, a context that you can pull up instantly. Let me show you how this works in action. Take the verb hang. In this one tiny story, we've got three totally different phrasal verbs. You hang out with friends, that means spending time together. You hang up a phone when the call is over, and you hang on when you need to wait for a moment. See? The story makes the differences crystal clear and so much easier to remember.
Okay, theory is great, but practice is where the real learning happens. It's time to go from just understanding the idea to actually using it. So let's try out a few really common examples and see how you do.
Here are a few heavy hitters you will hear and use all the time. Notice the little but really important difference between wake up, that moment your brain turns on, and get up, when you physically climb out of bed. Or pick up, which can mean lifting something, yeah, but it can also mean learning something naturally, like when you pick up a language from living in a country. All right, pop quiz time. And don't worry, it's super low stakes. So imagine this. Your alarm clock starts blaring in the morning. What's the very first thing that happens?
Yes, you wake up. Your sleep is officially over. Now, you might stay under the covers for another 10 minutes before you actually get up, but the first step is waking up. See? You've totally got this. Okay, next one. You're at the supermarket, just minding your own business. You turn down an aisle and bam, there's your old teacher. You didn't plan it. It was a total surprise. Which phrasal verb perfectly describes this moment? Exactly. You run into your old teacher. It just perfectly captures that feeling of an unexpected accidental meeting. Well done.
So you're getting the hang of it. But what about the long game? What's the absolute best strategy to move from just doing quizzes to really truly mastering these tiny monsters for good?
If you take away just one thing today, please let it be this. Stop trying to memorize phrasal verbs from a list. I know it's the most common way people try to learn, but it's also the least effective. It's like trying to learn how to swim by reading a book about water. At some point, you gotta jump in the pool. The real secret is to become a language detective. Start noticing phrasal verbs in their natural habitat. When you're watching a movie, reading an article, listening to your favorite songs, train your brain to catch them. When you hear one, just pause and think about the context. What's happening in the scene? That is how your brain will truly learn and remember them.
And here is one last pro tip to really help you organize all this. Instead of learning them alphabetically, which is kind of random, try grouping them by topic. Create a little mental toolkit of verbs for travel, another for emotions, another one for work. This connects them in your mind and makes them so much easier to find when you actually need to use them in a conversation.
So, there you have it. Phrasal verbs aren't monsters to be feared. They're really just puzzles to be solved, and they are your key to sounding more natural, more fluent, and more confident. The real question isn't if you can learn them, it's which one you're going to start with. So, what tiny monster will you master next?